All right, so we are back on the Weight Concept presented by The Ring Magazine, and today we are covering UFC 322, recapping the entire thing. Instant reaction, mainly focused on the main event, but we'll go through some more of the fights as well. It was a fantastic card, one with 4 straight finishes through the middle of the card, and then the last 2 fights left a little to be desired in the entertainment department, partly because of the entertaining fashion in which the main card and the undercard went, and then the style of fights that we got. What do I mean? What just happened? Islam Makhachev dominates JDM. Valentina Shevchenko dominates Weili Zhang, but I still feel like we have some more questions than maybe even answers. The breakdown. Let's go. All right, so really quickly, let's talk about the undercard here because we had a fantastic night of fights. We had a great start to the night in the early prelims with Kyle Dacus getting a first-round submission over Gerald Meerschaert after hurting him with the left hand. Pat Sabatini won a 3-round decision. Angela Hill won her decision. Bysengor Sursurkayev with a nasty knockout in his fight. Big-time win for him. Again, training partner to Khamzat Chimaev and a guy that everybody's keeping their eye on to say, how good are you going to be if you can get your gas tank better, implement some of that striking game. Obviously, his wrestling's going to be there as well. But things really turned up when we got to the prelim card. MalcolmM versus Ethan Ewing. This fight turned on its head. This was a short notice fight for MalcolmM, and obviously Ethan Ewing took it on 2 days' notice. Wellmaker had an opponent that fell out, but Ethan Ewing just won a fight less than a week ago, or I think 7 days ago, in a small promotion in California under Uriah Faber. Comes out and put it on MalcolmM in this fight. Showcased some great striking, some fantastic wrestling. He was throwing punches in bunches. Malcolm was stuck throwing one shot at a time, and I don't like to use the term fraud check, but at 32 years old and you're in the UFC, you got to win fights like that to make that move up. This is Malcolm's first loss as a pro, but his age is a ticking time bomb in this sport. You know, you get past that 35, 36 mark, and it's going to get downhill quickly. Fair play to Ethan Ewing. He did exactly what he needed to do. The smaller man, as far as height was concerned, and a guy that didn't seem to be packing the same amount of power, but he was tagging Wellmaker with big-time shots. He was wrestling when he needed to. He was scrambling when he needed to. He was mixing the game plan up, and eventually he wins a 3-round decision that I didn't think he lost a round in. People gave MalcolmM one of the rounds. I thought it was a 30-27 clear. Very impressed by Ethan Ewing, and again, what a night. He asked for a performance bonus. He probably won't get that just because of the fights we had coming after, but then we had Erin Blanchfield versus Tracy Cortez, and this was Erin Blanchfield trying to get one of her losses back, and she did that. She came out and got a submission win after Tracy started really well with the hands, I thought, in the first round. Looked solid, was putting some punches together, was putting some combinations together, and then things went downhill in the second. And Erin, not only on the feet, but then with her grappling, was able to lock up a rear naked choke. Wasn't even really a locked in with the feet rear naked choke, meaning she wasn't like back mount, hooks in, rear naked choke. That was essentially like to the side, perpendicular, gable grip rear naked choke, and it worked. Fair play. She gets the win. Big-time win for her. And then we had Roman Kopylov versus RoboCop Gregory Rodriguez. And this was a fun fight. Good back and forth. Kopylov started, I thought, well, but then RoboCop came on strong. And this dude does not look like he is built for the middleweight division. This guy looks like, first off, he's built in a fucking lab. His traps are bigger than most people's shoulders. He looks like a heavyweight, somehow making 185 pounds. I don't understand how he does that. But when he punches you, you fucking feel it. The guy's got ridiculous power, and it was like a tidal wave, and he just kind of overwhelmed Kopylov with a lot of standard right and left hands. There wasn't a lot of, questions about it. There wasn't a lot of flash when he was throwing. It was pretty standard stuff, the basics. But landing 91 total strikes, and of those strikes, 90 of them significant. So pretty much everything he threw, there were no setup shots. He was throwing hammers, and he gets the decision win. I thought it was the right call. He busted up Kopylov. That's a big-time win for RoboCop, no doubt about it. Then we go to Bo Nickal. Oh, Bo Nickal, the person that everybody had turned on in the MMA scene, the guy that everybody had said was essentially a fraud. That was never going to be an MMA champion. And sure, Bo Nickal had talked a lot, said he would out-wrestle and was the kryptonite for Khamzat Chimaev, said he was better than a lot of guys in the sport. It turns out he goes up against RDR, has a pretty shit performance, and gets quote-unquote exposed. Little did we know, RDR is pretty fucking special. But he comes in now against Adolfo Vieira, and Adolfo, a nasty submission artist, no doubt about it, but not a guy that's ranked. And a good test, though, for Bo Nickal. They put him on the prelim card. in the main spot of the prelim card, and he showed out in this fight. His striking was on point. His wrestling was on point. At one point, he picked up Adolfo and tossed him on the ground like he was a freaking rag doll. And Bo was just doing everything without really any struggle at all. I mean, you look at some of these numbers and you see it. You know, the total strikes were not even close, significant strikes, the takedown attempts, submission attempts. Bo was in his bag tonight. And I think this was a big-time comeback performance for him because I think a lot of people still wanted to see him lose again. I think you see sometimes in MMA, you see people hate watching more than they're watching for love of the sport. They want to see guys lose more than they want to see sometimes their favorite fighters win. And I don't know what that's driven by, but it's definitely an abundance of emotion, which is filled throughout the MMA community and the MMA online community especially. We'll talk more about that in the co-main and main event, really. But Bo Nickal had an outstanding performance, ends it off with a beautiful high kick, a left high kick, and knocked Adolfo Vieira out cold. He is back, and I think he, again, is still evolving in this sport. A guy that he started the sport 4 or 5 years ago. You know, high level wrestler, still getting his bearings in MMA. Only 8-1, and his one being a loss to RDR. I think he's very, very special. And again, he's got to move quickly, right? He started MMA a little later. Let's not throw him right back into the deep end, slow and steady, and see what happens with Bo Nickal. Very, very fantastic win for him. And then you thought that might be the KO of the night. Well, we were just getting started because the next fight, the first fight on the main card, you have Dariush versus Benoit Saint-Denis, and it didn't go 20 seconds. This was incredible. You thought, okay, Benil's going to get very loose and fluid with his hands, and Benoit Saint-Denis is going to wrestle, and potentially that'll make the difference. He'll get a decision here. Nope. The fight starts, and Dariush, big knee up the middle, kicks out the lead leg of Benoit Saint-Denis, but they get into a clinch, and immediately Saint-Denis left hook over the top. Dariush is asleep on the floor. By the way, Joe Rogan had the audacity in this fight to say, looked like Benil was maybe trying to work back to his feet after he did a fucking head slide on the floor like he was Chris Brown and stomped the yard. I don't know what Joe was thinking about on commentary, talking about, Benil's ready to go. He could have gotten to his feet, and absolutely not. And right before this happened, by the way, this was one of the more chaotic scenes of the night. You had a knockout from Benoit Saint-Denis, but as the main card was starting, I completely forgot, Dylan Danis and the Dagestani crew, including John Pork, that's right, Shevchenko and the entire crew, apparently jumped Dylan Danis. And I don't know who started it, if it was Dylan, if it was them, I'm not sure, but I will say this, not a big fan of having 10 people jump one guy and his brother who doesn't do combat sports in a venue and act like that's a normal thing. Even if Dylan is trash-talking that specific group of people, whether it's just the Dagestani fighters or Muslim fighters, if you have a problem with it, you settle it one-on-one, or at least that's how I thought you settled things. Not jumping people 10-on-1 or 5-on-1 or whatever it was. And I just felt like that was super unfair. Again, I don't know who started it. Maybe Dylan was popping off at the mouth again, and then I can't really defend it. But jumping a guy 5-on-1 and not really leaving a scratch on him, I don't know if that says more about the Dagestani crew or more about Dylan, but fair play. He got out of it pretty unscathed, but he was ejected, kicked from the building, and I hate it because, again, I don't know who started it. But if Dylan didn't start it, he is going to get labeled as one of these guys like, oh, there goes Dylan fighting in the street again when he's trying to legitimately get into the UFC. And I've spent time with the guy, and I think, behind all the bravado and the trash talk and the bad guy and all that, he's a good dude and he wants a chance. And I feel like he may not get his chance because of something like this, and I don't even know if he started it. So maybe more news will come out. Thought that was kind of a crazy situation. And as far as all the people involved in the brawl, that was nuts. Then we move on. We had Leon Edwards versus Carlos Prates, and this one was one that had a little bit more spice on it in terms of the pre-fight build. It felt like a little bit more emotion between both guys. Leon Edwards, you see these matchups a lot. A guy like Leon, who has been a former champion at his peak, seemed like unbeatable because he beats Kamaru Usman once, then he beats him again after their first fight where Kamaru got the best of him, so he doubled him up in the second and the third, and the headshot dead, and just being so dynamic in those fights. And he's fallen off a cliff here a bit as his career has gone on. The Bilal Muhammad loss, and then you come to this fight after the Sean Brady submission. Where does Leon Edwards go? This is a little bit of a crunch time situation for Leon. And then on the other side, you have this young, hungry, dangerous striker. And again, you see these matchups in the UFC. The old guy, the OG, and the young buck. What usually happens here. Carlos Prates, what a performance. Again, not a bad start to the fight for Leon Edwards. He came out, did a decent job grappling, got backpack position, There's a moment where his back is on the cage and he's throwing like side punches to Carlos Prates' head, and Prates is just looking at the crowd like, bro, is this all this man has? Like super composed, right? Just like he was out for a smoke break during training. And again, through the first round, I thought Leon might have done some enough to win that first round because there wasn't much else really done in the first round. But then we got to the second. When we got to that second round and Carlos Prates was talking to him and he was getting him to talk back and he was doing his thing and trash talking and being in his groove and in his flow. And then he crow hopped in with a straight left hand like he was an outfielder throwing a ball to home plate and touched Leon Edwards on the chin. The guy has a touch of death in his left hand, and I know we said that about Conor McGregor, but look at this streak. Neil Magny, first round KO, Jing Liang, KO, and there's one missing piece, and it's the Ian Machado-Gary fight. Ian Gary at 170. It's a problem for a lot of strikers. Now, more on that in a little bit. But what a win for Carlos Prates. Whatever he does next, I have no idea. I maybe would like to see him in a fight with the guy we're going to talk about next, because then we had another welterweight matchup, back-to-back skis, between Sean Brady and Michael Morales. And folks, just like the theme of the previous three, this one was not going very long. The fight started, Sean Brady had knee pads on, kind of scared me already. And again, a guy that already has a win over Leon Edwards. Yes, had lost to Bilal Muhammad, but was looking to get his way back into title contention, and Michael Morales was having none of it. Right away, the fight starts, and Morales is teeing off. He's swinging for the bleachers, and one or two of them are landing, and that's all it really takes for a guy that big, who, again, we said this about RoboCop, Michael Morales looks like he is a light heavyweight. Fighting at 170, he's huge, and he is swinging some of the most wild punches you will ever see. Technique be damned, it doesn't look great. It looks like he's fighting against his own body sometimes to throw some of that stuff. He's winging him out there, and it doesn't matter because he's so big, and he's so fast, and he's so strong that if anything touches you on the chin, you're going to sleep. And that's pretty much what happened. Morales finds a home with one of those wild, flailing right hands, and it woke Sean Brady up, and then it just took a couple more. Knocked him down, finished the fight, first round stoppage, and Morales looked at Dana White, whistled at Dana White, that was kind of crazy, and said, hey, want a title shot. He was number 8 in the world coming into this. He's undefeated at 19-0. Don't know if he's going to get that next title shot. There's a lot of people that are going to be standing there waiting on the winner of the main event. We'll get to it in a second. But man, 4 straight knockouts. What a way to get into your co-main and main. And you thought, you know what? It just can't go wrong from here. And we took a slight left turn. We took a little bit of a hard left. We got off the straight and narrow path. It was a bumpy road from here on out. We had Valentina Shevchenko, Weili Zhang. This is the only fight I missed on the night. I had Weili. I thought she was going to be able to bring a lot of her wrestling power, her crisp punching, her well-rounded game to Valentina. And then I saw both of them in the octagon. And I saw how much bigger Valentina was at 125. And I went, yep, this is not going to go well. And it didn't. It was, without getting into the details of round-by-round scoring, this was a complete wash for Valentina Shevchenko. She outstruck Weili, great body kicks, didn't let Weili really get off with any of the punches. And in the grappling department, it was just not even close. It was like a parent playing with their child. How easily Valentina was able to get the body lock, the double unders, and take Weili Zhang to the floor. And Weili couldn't do a damn thing about it. When she got to the floor, she wasn't getting up. And Valentina did not do a lot with the strikes on top, but she outstruck her when they were standing. She outstruck her pretty much in every scenario, and then out-grappled her. This was a clear, dominant victory that, yes, wasn't very aesthetically pleasing. Yes, was a bit boring as far as a grappler holds another fighter down for 5 rounds. It's not something that is going to gain any fans for Valentina, and it's definitely not going to be the entertaining fight that you wanted to see as your co-main event. But then again, that's not necessarily Valentina's responsibility. She's out there to win a belt and defend a belt. And we're going to talk more about this in the main event, but this was just a precursor. This was the appetizer for the argument that we're going to get in this main event, which is, what do you do about a skill set that someone has that's so dominant that no one can stop it, and it's not the most aesthetically pleasing for the sport? It's not the thing that's the most entertaining, but it is purely dominant and creates some very lopsided and boring fights. I don't really have an answer for it. But I don't think we should blame, or at least a lot of the blame shouldn't be placed on the person that's doing the grappling or doing the dominant thing, because the other person didn't have enough training, didn't have enough skill, didn't have enough ability to stop it. Anyway, we go to the main event of the evening. Islam Makhachev versus Jack Della Maddalena. Now listen, Islam took Jack Della Maddalena down 4 times in this fight after an attempted 4 takedowns, meaning he was 100% on his takedowns in this fight. And it started from round 1. And by the way, the round started with Islam chewing up the lead leg of Jack Della Maddalena out of a southpaw position. With the low leg kicks, he was touching him with that. For some reason, Jack did not like it. There was some wincing going on Jack's face. I don't know if there was an injury coming into this fight. I'm not sure. But from that point, you saw Jack start to try to switch stances. And just at the time where Jack would want to start firing up his striking, just when he wanted to walk forward and try to do his thing, get his combinations going, and try to overwhelm Islam with the striking, Islam, great timing, take him down. The first one was beautiful. It was a single leg that he ended up getting the clubbing Jack after holding the single leg and then also tripping. It was a beautiful takedown and one that Islam got so easy. And again, from that point, it was top control. It wasn't just, you know, people are going to compare this to the Khamzat Chimaev DDP fight or even the Valentina fight, but I thought Islam was doing a better job of at least attempting to look for submissions, to look to his darce, to get to, you know, his wrist and then try to slide the bicep, or there were moments where he looked to go to the rear naked choke. And this happened round after round after round after round. And as it kept going, and as Islam kept racking rounds up, and as Jack Della Maddalena found himself helpless to defending takedowns, you started to see him lose his spirit. In the corner, his eyes looked lost. In the fight, you know, he would give the effort, and then immediately, once the takedown was secure, it almost felt like not only was the pressure of Islam on him deflating, but it was just deflating for him to continue fighting. It truly, it looked like he was going to cry at one point in the later part of the fight. And I'm not even trying to be like jokey or whatever. It looked like Jack, either by injury or just by, I don't know, humiliation or just the fact that he had no answers for Islam, it looked like he was going to cry. I think maybe one of the end of the round. But in total, I mean, there's not really much to talk about here. Like I said, Islam, he attempted some and got close on some darce attempts. He got close on 2 Kimura attempts. Had an arm pinned and tried to go rear naked choke. Jack did a good job in those instances of defending the submission. But as far as getting back to his feet, those attempts were almost nowhere to be found. To the point where Jack, in his own corner at one point during the fight, they're looking at him and going, "What are we doing? This is not what we worked on in camp." Not once in camp did we say sit in half guard. In fact, we did the opposite. We were like, get out of half guard. Never be in half guard. Here you are, laying flat on your back in half guard. Like, they were even perplexed by what Jack was doing or not doing. So it didn't seem like he was following the game plan. It didn't seem like he was able to because of the dominant control of Islam Makhachev. And again, does that make a fight interesting to watch? No. For the aesthetic of kickboxing or big-time knockouts. Again, kind of got spoiled in this card. We had 4 straight huge knockouts. Like it or not, wrestling is a part of this sport. And I know that's the typical line, but it's genuinely the truth. Like, what are you going to do if you're a fan of MMA? Are you going to abolish wrestling? You get into the weeds of the sport like, oh, Islam is so good at grappling that we now have to power limit you on this. You would never do that for any other aspect of the sport. And yes, it is a damage-driven sport, but what about submission specialists like Ryan Hall or Diego Maya, submission specialists in the sport? Are you going to tell them that they're no longer allowed to pull guard? They're no longer allowed to Eminari roll? They're no longer allowed to look for submissions off of their back because that's not as aesthetically pleasing? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know where you really can draw the line there. Like, yeah, sure, it's not a one-to-one comparison, but are you going to tell, you know, a boxer that's trained all their lives to box that they can't do the thing they're best at? In a sport that is the combined mixed martial arts, you can't eliminate grappling. And the only thing you can do is ask them to stand up, but then he's going to take Jack Della Maddalena right back down. I hate this idea that we just blame Islam. Like, Islam's the problem with all this. And have no look at Jack, who's laying flat on his back on the ground and not able to get up and going, we have to blame Islam for being too good at doing this. Or we need to change the rules because he's too good at doing this. And it's not interesting for fans to watch. Versus Jack is so bad with his grappling defense or his takedown defense or his ability to get off his back that this looks pitiful, like a dad playing with his child, and he's unable to even fight. He's just trying to survive the rounds. He's not even able to fight. This is how bad this is. When we talk about like, oh, it's not fighting, it's hugging. Yeah, I agree with you that it's not fighting in that case because Jack isn't fighting him back. Jack's not throwing punches from the bottom. He's not trying to look for submissions off his back. He's sitting in half guard on his back, just trying to survive the round because he has no answer for it. That's how dominant Islam Makhachev was in this fight and how dominant he can be with just specifically grappling. Did we not watch Jack Della Maddalena and Bilal Muhammad? Like, yeah, was the fight interesting? Sure. Bilal Muhammad lost his belt. He lost trying to play Jack Della Maddalena's game. Why would Islam do the same thing? You think he cares what the MMA online community says about how boring that fight was when he has 8 of 10 stoppages in his last 10 and he's looking for his second belt to potentially become one of the greatest of all time? And I think he is now standing in that place of one of the greatest of all time. 28-1. 2 belts, done it against some big-time names, done it in many different fashions. No, we don't care about that. So I get it. I'm with you. It's a boring way for us fans to view the sport when a guy is that dominant. But the only answer that's ever going to make sense, and the only one that's ever actually going to get to a solution, if you don't like the way the Dagestanis fight, it's lazy to say, just stop fighting that way. It's easy to say that, and I think it's lazy. But I said this online, and I don't know. This is the only thing I could really come up with. I said, Islam Makhachev is the new UFC welterweight champ. No, the fight wasn't the most entertaining, jam-packed action that the rest of the card was, but Islam was completely dominant. I meant to say dominant. I said dominate. I can't spell. And controlled the entire thing. For the quote, "This fight was boring" crowd, I don't know what to tell you. He has a ridiculously strong skill set that seems unstoppable. And JDM stayed glued to half guard on his back all night. So I think most of the blame needs to be placed on him. Like, you have to get better at what you do if you want to be an elite level MMA fighter with guys that have a complete skill set or have such a strong specialized skill set that is, I think, the best base for the sport, which is grappling and wrestling, because at any point you can take a fight over by just getting in close proximity to someone else who may be a better striker but has no idea how to wrestle or doesn't have it on the level you do, and you could take the floor where you have an advantage. And then I said this, wrestling will always be a part of the sport. So the only real answer is to get better at wrestling or suffer in these types of fights. And that's really it. Like, this answer to the Dagestani style is not going to be made overnight. This is something that you are going to have to train and train and train and train and train, because these dudes have been doing it since they were like 4 years old. This is their national sport. Wrestling is what they do. And I know JDM is a nasty striker, but you got to be more than that. And I'm not saying this like it's anything new, but that's just the truth. In this game, if you don't have a wrestling background, grappling background, and you are such a high-level elite striker, you have the lesser valuable half of the game solved. The more entertaining half, yes. The flashier half, the half that's going to bring you far more money, fans, audience, everything else. But it won't let you be as dominant as if you understand grappling better than you understand striking, or as good as you understand. But JDM just didn't have any of it. He looked so defeated. Anyway, Islam wins a dominant 5-round decision, and he got on the mic and said he wants to fight at the White House. He's, let's go at the White House, brother. And, right away, I'm sitting here going, who is next for Islam? You can't run JDM back out there in some sort of rematch. That's not going to happen. He's going to have to pick up the pieces. Yeah, Bilal Muhammad there, but I don't know how well Bilal Muhammad and Islam get along. Are they going to fight? Is that one of those weird friend-buddy things? I would love to see that fight. I think it'd be a great one. You have Michael Morales with a big-time win. He takes Sean Brady off the map. There he is. You have Ian Gary there at 170. Again, his grappling's not the greatest when it comes to being able to handle that kind of wrestling. You have Shavkat, but apparently his knees are still fucked up. I don't know if he's going to be fighting anytime soon. I'm just going to throw something out there. No one's going to like this. There's one guy and one guy only that should have the next fight with Islam Makachev, but I don't think it's going to happen. It needs to be Ilia Topuria, and it needs to be at 55, but Islam talking about how he didn't have to cut weight and how much of a blessing it was. I don't know if he's ever going back down there. He acts like he is. Maybe. We'll see. If it's going to be at the White House, give me Islam Makachev and Ilia Topuria. That would be fucking fire. I would love that. But it seems like they have other plans for Ilia first, so we'll see. But if you can't get that one done, like I said, there's all these other 170s that I already named off that you can't do. What about Kamaru Usman? Kamaru Usman at 170. I'm not saying it's plausible, because it's probably not going to happen that way. It's not really fair to just stick Kamaru in there. But who's got the best shot to beat him right now at 170? That's what I'm asking. Maybe it's not the right question to ask. It's more about rankings and who's earned the shot. I get it. But who's got the best shot to beat him? Who's the most interesting matchup for that kind of counter style? It'd be Kamaru Usman. It would be. Great wrestling. Developed into striking. Had a really, really close fight with Khamzat Chimaev, and that's the only way I can really compare him. And pretty much stuffed a lot of what Khamzat wanted to do. Maybe I'm pie in the sky, but that's what I would do. If you couldn't get Ilia and Islam at 155, I'd go there. Plus, again, White House card, you need an American. Kamaru Usman's there. Anyway, that's what I think, man. What a card. What a banger. But again, I know this is not going to go over well with everybody online that called it a boring fight. And I don't necessarily disagree. I'm not saying it was an interesting fight as far as a spectator sport's concerned. It wasn't aesthetically pleasing as the 4 knockouts were previously before the co-main and main. And it did drag a little bit. Yes, of course. But there's only one real answer if you ever want that to stop. Get better at wrestling so you either know how to not get taken down, truly, not just, I'm just going to train takedown defense and hope for the best for a couple of months, but really understand the full scope of wrestling or deal with that, because these guys are fucking good at the main base of MMA. No amount of referee stoppages and taps on the back and re-stand up and reset the action are going to fix that, because if they're better at you on the ground, they're most likely better at getting there than you are at stopping them. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think down below. Massive card, massive wins, banger undercard, and Islam Makhachev, probably one of the greatest fighters that's ever lived. I think we can say that now. If you guys disagree, let me know down below. But what happens next for everybody on the card don't have those answers, so I guess we'll find out.